Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Sada Shiva Samarambha Shankaracharya Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. So we will continue with where we left off. We'll chant the 13th mantra of the 4th chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam
Chaturvarnyam
Gunakarma vibhagashaha
Gunakarma Vibhagashaha
Asya kartaram api mam
Tasya Kartaram
Vidya kartaram avyayam
Vidya Kartaram Avyayam.
So we started talking about the Varna Ashrama Vyavastha in the last class, and I covered the ashramas. So as we mentioned, these two were the basic infrastructure for Vedic society, Varna and the ashramas. The ashramas, therefore, because they are focused on an individual, they are meant for the growth of the individual. And we talked about all the 4 ashramas, which is not really covered in this particular sloka, but for the sake of understanding, we talked about the ashramas, which is meant for the growth of the individual. And now we come to the Varna, which is meant for the growth or the harmony of society, for social health. Varna is necessary. So by a combination of the ashramas, which produce a well-balanced individual, and the combination of Varna parameters, which produce a socially healthy society, one will have a balanced society. So that was the whole idea of the Vedic Vyavastha, the Vedic infrastructure. So now we talk about Varna. What is the Varna? Varna is not a caste system as it is, today thought of. Because whenever we say Varna, people think of caste system, the 4 caste system. That is not it. Varna is, I'll give you the definition. The Sanskrit definition is Varnayate anena iti varnaha. Varnayate anena iti varnaha. Varnayate, using a set of parameters, defining a group. Anena. Varnayate anena, using a set of parameters, if you define a group, that group is Varnaha. And what are the parameters which we use for defining Varnaha? Any idea?
Guna Karma.
Good. The 3 Gunas. 3 Gunas are the basic parameters used. Okay, and that is why Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. I am responsible for the origination of the Varna scheme also. And Chaturvarnyam. Chaturvarnyam. There are 4 Varnas. 4 classes of people are there, which means essentially that the entire society can be divided, can be categorized into 4 broad classes. And what are they? Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. So each is a Varna. Brahmana Varna, Kshatriya Varna, Vaishya Varna, and Shudra Varna. So Krishna talks about 2, Guna and Karma. Vibhagashaha means divided by, division. So Guna Karma Vibhagashaha means divided on the basis of Gunas and Karmas. And this is a very important idea, because when you talk to people today, many people say that the caste system is because of this verse alone, and they quote this verse to show that Krishna himself was the cause of this caste system. Remember that a caste system in Sanskrit we call jati, based on birth. Jati, Janma, based on Janma. So Jati-based system is caste system. And that is nowhere there in this verse. And yet, because of Western thought, a lot of Westerners have looked at, especially Britishers who were here, they have talked about the evils of the caste system. And they talked about based on birth alone. Okay, but Krishna doesn't say that. And therefore, as Hindus, we should be aware of this verse so that we can, if somebody talks about the evils of the caste system, we should be able to refute. And how do we understand? We should understand that jati-based system, which is caste-based system, is not there in Hinduism. It is not there in Sanatana Dharma at all. Nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Upanishad is it talked about that it is based on birth alone. So, what is the first division? It is based on character. The character here is gunaha, the various attributes which you have. And what are the attributes which you have? There are 3 gunas. So, guna vibhagaha means guna swabhavaha, character or personality of a person based on his attributes, based on his gunas. And to indicate this, we use in Sanskrit or in Shastra when we talk, we add a term to we add the term guna. Whenever we talk about Brahmana, Kshatriyas, we add the term guna. So you have a guna Brahmana, you have a guna Kshatriya, you have a guna Vaishya, and you have a guna Shudra. What does it mean? The attributes of the person are not based on his caste or his birth, are based on what are his qualities. So that is one way of classifying. We'll discuss that in a bit more detail. So that is one way of classifying. Guna, based on gunaha. Then secondly, we have another classification based on profession. So karma, occupation. And if you are going to look at people from this particular angle, then you can add the word karma to the beginning. So just as you got guna brahmanaha, guna kshatriyaha, you have karma brahmanaha, karma kshatriyaha, karma vaishya, and karma shudraha. Right? So these are two major classifications which come based on this verse. And the third one is there. I'm not saying it is not there, but it's not there in the scriptures, but it has evolved. So jati brahmana. So jati here, remember, does not mean caste. Jati means birth. And the word jati is derived from the root jan, to be born. Right? The abstract noun of jan is jatihi. So we have jati brahmana, jati kshatriya, jati vaishya, and jati shudra. Now let us try to understand the basis of each of these divisions. Remember that in the Shastram, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks only about guna karma vibhagashaha. He doesn't say jati vibhagashaha. But jati we have to look at also because it is a reality that the people are discriminated against or were being discriminated against based on their birth. And therefore we should try to understand that also so that we can give a complete refutation whenever somebody talks about the evils of caste-based system in Hinduism. So let us take the guna-wise division first. So what type of character, what type of parameters in the character should we have for a person to be classified as guna brahmana? The classification is based, as I said, on a particular set of characters. The set is of 3, which is what? 3 basic gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. So anything you classify can ultimately be classified under these gunas only. You must remember that any classification which we do from the Vedantic point of view, I am saying, any classification of anything we do is basically anatma only. You are classifying anatma. Atma you cannot classify because atma is... Why can you not classify atma?
It's one
It
only.
has 2 parts. It has no
2 things.
gunas.
It is one
Gunatita.
only and it is nirguna.
Gunatita.
It is gunatita, it is nirguna, and it is ekam. So where is the question of classification? And therefore any classification you do has to be the classification of anatma only. Any anatma is born from maya only. Maya has 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. So what is the rule? Karana gunaha karye anuvartante. Whatever are the gunas, whatever the attributes of the cause, they are always present in the product. And therefore, whatever is born from Maya will definitely have these three gunas, since the cause Maya is itself composed of the three gunas. And therefore, all classifications you will find in the Bhagavad Gita are based on three gunas only. And Shastram points out that a Guna Brahmana is a person, a Guna Brahmana is a person in which Sattva Guna is dominant. Okay. Now, we are saying dominant. Very important point to remember. When you say a person is predominantly sattvic or is entirely sattvic also you say, remember that he cannot be 100% sattva. Why is that so? Because
It must have other two gunas too.
Because his body and his mind are both made of matter, and matter has to have three gunas. And therefore, you can only say that a sattvic person, when we say, we are saying for that person, sattva guna is predominant. And here, if sattva guna is predominant, then there are two more gunas, right? Rajas and tamas. And therefore, wherever you have two things, remember that there can be an order. So you can have sattva first and rajas second and tamas third. Or you can have sattva first, tamas second and rajas third. Right? Remember that that particular distinction is always possible. But Shastra points out that in a Guna Brahmana, a person who is predominantly sattvic dominant, the next dominant guna, apart from sattva, sattva is a predominant guna, the next dominant guna is what? It is raja, rajoguna. Tamoguna is the least. Therefore, when you say Brahmana Swabhava, character of a Brahmana, Guna Brahmana, you are saying he is Sattva Pradhanam. He is Sattvic predominant, followed by, next in order will be Rajas, next in order will be Tamas. Okay, so we can simply say SRT, where each indicates the dominant. Sattva S, dominant. Rajas R, second most dominant. The least is Tamaguna. So, Guna Brahmana is SRT. And because of this, you can understand, it doesn't matter in which country he is born. It doesn't matter whether it's male or female. It doesn't matter in which religion he belongs to. It doesn't matter who his parents are. Nothing matters, because ultimately the body-mind complex has the three gunas, and that is how it becomes sattva. So we will be seeing this later in the 14th chapter, far away, that sattva represents a calmness of mind, a tranquility. It represents the predominantly intellectual nature. Whereas Rajas stands for activity, hyperactivity. The tendency to be hyperactive is called Rajogunaha. And Tamogunaha represents the lack of both. Right? There is neither sattva nor Rajas. In the sense that Tamas has dominated both Rajas and sattva. That is called Tamoguna, predominant personality. So there is neither activity there, nor is there internal activity, nor external activity. So internal activity is, no intellect is there. Intellect doesn't function properly, nor is there external activity. And therefore that person is Tamoguna. So this particular thing you must remember, right? Now, normally, everybody goes through this phase where there is neither internal activity nor external activity, right? Remember that when you are asleep, you are neither inwardly active nor externally active. So just don't think that Tamoguna is not there in us. Tamoguna is necessary. So without Tamoguna, you cannot sleep. While in contemplation, in meditation, external activity is not there, but the mind is alert. So internal activity is there, right? So tamas represents the suppression of both inner and outer activities. So what is the first type of guna? First type of character? Sattva Guna Pradhanam. That is sattva first, then rajas, then tamas. Such a person is a thinking person, a contemplative person, is a Guna Brahmana. Okay, then comes the Rajo Guna Pradhanam, where sattva is not predominant, but rajas is predominant. When Rajas is predominant, what happens? Activity is dominant, and this person is hyperactive. Now, in this case, remember the other two gunas are what? Sattva and tamas. And therefore, this Rajoguna predominant person can have Sattva as the dominant, second dominant guna, or I can have the tamas as second dominant guna. We'll see what the difference is. Right? So RST, Rajas predominant, Sattva next order of dominance, and tamas least. Such a person is what? He is active, he is extroverted, he is very active because Rajas is predominant. But that Rajas is backed up by Sattva Guna. And what does Sattva stand for? Stands for intellectual activity, thinking, tranquility, etc. And therefore, the RST, that person is active, but there is no selfishness in him. So that activity benefits society. He might benefit from his activities, okay, but society benefits more. And such a person who is Rajas predominant, backed up by Sattva, is called Kshatriya Swabhava or Gunas Kshatriyaha. So what was Guna Brahmanaha? SRT. RST is Guna Kshatriyaha. And the difference here is that though he is Rajas predominant, because of the second backup by Sattva, he is not selfish, and therefore it is Kshatriya Swabhava. He is selflessly active. He works for the benefit of others. Activity is there, but most of the benefits are derived by somebody else, by society, and therefore is called a Guna Kshatriya. Then, under the same heading of Rajas predominant, we can reverse the other two gunas. So you can have tamas as the second dominant guna. If Rajas is predominant, you can have tamas as second dominant guna and Sattva as the least. So here also, what happens? Rajaguna is dominant. And therefore, this person is not an introvert. He is not contemplative. He is highly active. But Rajoguna here is backed up in the second place by Tamoguna. And therefore, what happens? The activities are highly selfish. Right? He is selfishly active. And such people work for themselves predominantly. And therefore, any Vaishya Gunaha, all commercial activity falls under such people. Right? So, whoever is selfishly active are TS. All such people are Guna Vaishyas. Again, remember, we are talking about his profession also. What is the profession we're talking about, right? So, even if it is, for example, a religious activity, depending upon how you are active, like for example, you see all these Tirtha Yatras which are being organized, right? And they're all, what is the main motive? It is not that people should go on Tirtha Yatras. The main motive is that I should have money. The person organizing must become wealthy. And therefore, self-interest is paramount over there. So all those kind of activities where self-interest is paramount, even if overtly they are for religious purposes, they fall under Vaishya activities. Remember? And therefore, RTS, however, I'm not saying RTS cannot be dharmic. RTS can be dharmic. RTS can be adharmic. And therefore, this person can either be an ambitious salesperson who is fulfilling his targets, not very ethically, but without being adharmic. Or he can be a criminal also, right? A criminal also will be RTS because a criminal needs to be active. And Tamoguna being strong can drag him to a criminal sort of activity. And both combinations are possible in RTS, dharmic, adharmic. Right? So that is the Vaishya Gunaha. And that is why you see many traders who are selfishly active. And that is why you see some people also who are criminals. They both belong to the same category of Vaishya Gunaha. And the last one is what? Tamoguna predominant. So TRS. Tamo first, Rajas second, and Sattva third. So Tamo is predominant, backed up by Raja, and Sattva is the least. And since Rajas and Sattva are not very strong, and Tamo is predominant, physical activity is less, mental activity is less. And therefore, for such people, they spend most of the time either sleeping or sleepy. Life is mechanical. And such people will fall under, you'll find them in the work field, you'll find them as unskilled people, people who just follow. And they are called Guna Shudraha. So these are two classifications basically, right? One based on Gunas. Then we said Karma Vibhagashaha. So you can classify based on Karma also, profession based. And such people will be called Karma Brahmanas, Karma Kshatriyas, Karma Vaishyas, and Karma Shudras. So according to Shastram, all activities connected to the intellectual arena, so education, research, propagation of ideas, teaching, all these are connected with intellectual activity. So they are all Karma Brahmanas. Intellectual here means both, this knowledge means both Atma Vidya as well as Anatma Vidya. The physical sciences also is included. So all teachers come under the classification of Karma Brahmana. Whether it is a Vedanta teacher or a physics teacher or a biology teacher, they're all teachers. So all acharyas, irrespective of their field. That's why I said both Laukika sciences, both worldly sciences as well as Atma Vidya, both are covered by the term of Karma Brahmana. And then there is another profession where there is the work of maintaining the infrastructure in society. So administration, maintenance of law and order, police, defense, administrative activities, all these take care of the infrastructure of society. And people who engage in this are called Kshatriyas, Karma Kshatriyas. Guna Kshatriya is different. We are talking about Karma Kshatriya here. And thirdly, anybody involved in economic growth. So trade, business, agriculture, they're all Karma Vaishyas because this is commercial areas involved. And the fourth category is the support staff, which support all the other three. So any unskilled work which has to be done to help the Karma Brahmana or the Karma Vaishya or the Karma Kshatriya, wherever manpower is required, but no planning, nothing is required, only implementation is required because planning is done by the Kshatriyas and therefore only implementation is required. This fourth category is called the Karma Shudras, all the unskilled work which is done to implement the planning done by the other three. This is called Karma Shudras. Okay. Now you will find that if you want more detailed, list of professions, you will find that these are indicated in the 18th chapter, verse number 42 to 44. You will see that this is also, it mentions what are the various professions. What is to be extracted from this? The most important thing to remember is that the words karma and guna, they are not synonymous. So a karma brahmana need not be a guna brahmana. So there is no rule that a karma brahmana is a guna brahmana. So if I am teaching the Veda, I am a karma brahmana. What makes me a guna brahmana is in what way I approach my teaching. I am already a karma brahmana because I am teaching Veda. If I am interested in teaching for the purpose of making a personal profit, then I am a karma brahmana. But by guna, what am I?
Vaishya.
Vaishya.
I am a guna Vaishya. Now, if I am not interested in profit making, but I want to be known as a great person, so I am a karma brahmana, but I am a guna kshatriya. Right? And the last one is, of course, purely based on birth. So when a person is born to a Brahmin parents, then he is called a Jati Brahmana. We do not know what kind of gunas he will have. We do not know what kind of character he will have. We do not know what kind of profession he is going to undertake. But he is a He's a karma. Whether he's going to be a karma brahmana, we don't know. Whether he's going to be guna brahmana, we don't know. But he's a jati brahmana, purely based on his parentage. And the point is, very often people grade this, saying the brahmana is number one in this category, then kshatriya, then vaishya, and then shudras. So is there any gradation at all? That is one question we can ask. And if you want to grade, remember there are three different angles we are talking about: guna, karma, and jati. Right? And therefore Shastra says that if you are looking from the jati angle, from the birth angle, there is no gradation at all. All the four are equal. All are to be equally respected. So you cannot differentiate based on jati because there will be problems. And that is exactly what has happened in society. Because of selfishness of people, they have equated the guna brahmana with the jati brahmana. And therefore anybody who is born to a brahmana parent is said to be guna brahmana. And therefore there are problems. So from the point of view of the Shastram, the scripture, all are born equal. There is no gradation in jati at all. The caste system does not exist as far as jati is concerned. What about karma-wise division? Shastra says from karma also, all the professions are equally important. The teachers are important, so guna brahmana is important. For karma brahmana is important. Defense is important, so karma kshatriya is important. Economic well-being is important, and therefore karma vaishya is important. All the support staff is important, and therefore karma shudra is also important. From the shastric point of view, from the karma wise classification also, there is no gradation. Karma brahmana, karma kshatriya, karma vaishya, and karma shudra all are equal. Just as jati brahmana, jati kshatriya, jati vaishya, and jati shudra are also equal. So from either the karma point of view or the jati point of view, there is no gradation at all. What about the guna point of view? Shastra says certainly there is a gradation. Why? Because the guna brahmana is a person of noble character. He is certainly superior. He has to be respected. The question comes, who is superior to whom? Guna brahmana is certainly superior to guna kshatriya. Guna kshatriya is superior to guna vaishya. Guna vaishya is superior to guna shudra. Why do we say so? Because guna brahmana is a sattvic person, and the sattvic person is the closest to atma jnanam, and therefore moksha. He is sattva guna pradhanam, and therefore he is the closest to the Lord, and therefore he requires to be given respect. Whereas guna kshatriya is one step back. He performs selfless actions. He is certainly good, certainly superior, but he is less superior to the person who is close to moksha. So guna kshatriya's objective in life is to become a guna brahmana, attain atma jnanam, and then get moksha. From selfless activity which he does, the guna kshatriya cannot get moksha. He has to convert himself into guna brahmana. So from that guna brahmana, guna kshatriya has to become guna brahmana. Similarly, guna vaishya is inferior because he is active all right, but he is selfishly active. So guna vaishya has to convert himself into guna kshatriya and then convert himself into guna brahmana and then get moksha. And guna shudra is the lowest in the ladder because he has not even started any activity. There is neither selfish activity nor selfless activity nor jnanam. And for this person, the progress is he has to get converted to guna vaishya, then guna kshatriya, then guna brahmana, and therefore only moksha. And that is why the guna brahmana is superior to guna kshatriya, guna kshatriya is superior to guna vaishya is superior to guna shudra. So there is a gradation which is accepted. Unfortunately, that gradation among the gunas has been superimposed onto jatis, and that is why there is a problem with the caste system. So this is the explanation that you have to give whenever anybody talks about caste system in Hinduism. So jati-wise gradation is not accepted. Karma-wise gradation is not accepted. Guna-wise gradation, yes, definitely it is there. And therefore Shastra says, the spiritual progress, whichever Varna you are, Guna Satriya, Guna Vaishya, Guna Shudra, whichever Varna you are, you have to strive to become Guna Brahmana. And do you have a choice with regard to the Guna? Can a Guna Shudra become Guna Kshatriya? Can a Guna Vaishya become Guna Kshatriya and then a Guna Brahmana? If this was not so, remember, if this possibility was not there, there would be no possibility of moksha at all, and therefore Shastra would be useless. And therefore we have to remember that every sadhana prescribed in the Shastram, in the scripture, is only meant for this conversion from Guna Vaishya, from Guna Shudra to Guna Vaishya to Guna Kshatriya to Guna Brahmana. Any sadhana that you do from the point of view of the Varna system, it is meant for conversion from Guna Shudra to Guna Brahmana in the long run. And everybody remember, is born with what? Guna Pradhanam.
Tamas.
Why do we say so?
Sleep is extremely important. No, because
Okay, that is one answer.
maybe
Sleep,
sleep a lot.
maybe sleep a lot, that is one answer. So there is also one alasyam hi manushyanam sharirastho mahan rupo. It says that laziness is the greatest enemy of all human beings. So you have to extract from that. Why is that natural?
Inertia is the natural state.
Why? No statement which you make in a Shastric class is acceptable unless you have some Shastric statement to back it up.
Physical body is made of tamasic aspect of the inertia.
Can we quote? You're right. Can you quote?
We are
Starting of the
made of
quote.
matter, jada.
No, that is all okay. Etesham pancha tattvanam. What is it?
Panchikrita Panchamahabhuta.
Etesham pancha tattvanam tamasamshat panchikrita pancha tattvani bhavanti. From the tamasic aspect of the five elements, panchikrita pancha tattvani bhavanti. From that aspect, etebhya panchikrita panchamahabhutebhya sthula shariram bhavati. From the tamasic aspect, the physical body is born. The body is made up of tamas amsha of the five panchabhutas. And therefore, you have to have a large element of tamas when you start. Right? The fact that some people turn out to be sattva later on is because of prarabdha. So, sukshma shariram is made up of all sattva, rajas aspects also, whereas the sthula shariram is made out of what? Only the tamas aspect. The subtle body has sattva and rajas also, sattva and rajas, while the physical body is made of tamas. Tamas means inertia, laziness. And therefore I said the progress has to be from tamas predominance to rajas predominance. The lazy person should become first an active person. And that is the reason why Shastra prescribes the entire karma kanda. All the rituals prescribed are basically to break tamoguna, because every ritual involves physical activity. You have to get up early in the morning, you have to have a bath, you have to do your puja, you have to go to temple, you have to do parayanam, you have to do Surya Namaskara, you have to do asana practice. All methods are what? To address tamas and to facilitate a movement into rajas. From rajas, I have to go to sattva guna pradhanam, to predominance in sattva guna, because if I continue to remain highly active, I will never have time for Vedanta class. So I should contribute to society, but having done so, I should learn how to withdraw also. And therefore, to facilitate this shift from Rajoguna to Sattva Guna, the scriptures prescribed upasana kandam, varieties of meditation. So karma kanda is to help the shift from tamas to rajas. Upasana kanda, the bhakti part of it, is to help shift from rajas to sattva. And once I have become sattva guna, then I am guna brahmana. And after becoming guna brahmana, I have to become guna atitaha. I have to go beyond the gunas also, which again we will discuss this when we come to chapter 14. So here a question can come up with regard to our discussion. Do I have a choice with regard to karma? With regard to the actions I do? So we can say that, when you want to choose a profession, there are certain people who can go by jati. What does it mean? Here jati will mean the profession of your parents, right? For example, there are many doctors. Usually the children of the doctors would become doctors. Okay. Why? Because the environment is available to them. They already have the training there. In some cases, if they are wise enough, they will realize that they are not meant to be doctors and therefore they will move away. But there is a possibility of choosing a profession which your parents do. That is called choosing with regard to jati, with regard to birth. Like lawyers also. Lawyers' children can become lawyers. Now, if this is not available to me, like for most of us, parents are not doctors or lawyers or similar things. If this is not available to me, or also if I find that I don't like being a doctor, I don't like being a lawyer, then you go by guna. What type of personality I have, what type of indication that I have, is there inclination that I have, and based on that I choose the profession. Remember that advantages of choosing by birth are there, a ready-made platform, and no choice is necessary, right? The environment is conducive there because the parents are already there, and therefore to some amount of training will already be there. The disadvantage is that if you are not suited by guna to that particular profession, then you have made a bad choice and life is going to be miserable. What is the advantage of choosing by guna? You are temperamentally suited. There are many choices. You enjoy what you do, and therefore your employer also likes you. Shastra says, go by guna, or if it is necessary, if it is available to you, go by birth, go by jati. But let not money be the main criteria for your profession. Unfortunately, you will find that in today's world, most people choose because of money alone. What is the problem with choosing for money? You find that certain professions are always very crowded, and some professions where money is not very easily available, arts, craft, music, dance, you will find that they are loosely attended. You don't find too much of a crowd there. So this is Varna Vyavastha, designed by the Vedas. And that is why Krishna says, Chatur Paranyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. I have created this fourfold classification of society based on Guna and Karma. Remember that Krishna does not mention Jati separately, right? Because in his time, probably, those who were Brahmins took up only Brahmana karma. So those times it may be like that, but it is no longer anymore. So he says, Tasya kartaram apimam vidhimam akartaram avyayam. Say, Arjuna, you think that karma binds, and therefore you is trying to escape from karma. But Krishna is saying, Arjuna, do not try to escape from karma. You cannot escape from your karma because your guna will not allow that. You are Kshatriya by birth. Not only that, you are a Kshatriya by character also. So you are a Jati Kshatriya, that is good enough. But you are a Guna Kshatriya also. And if you go to the forest, your Rajasic nature will not go away. Right? So therefore, you cannot give up karma. The beauty is that Krishna is saying you need not give up karma. You can enjoy peace in spite of karma. Right? So this is the text of this particular chapter. Remember that in today's language, if you have to sum up the various varnas, brahmanas are what? Knowledge workers. Vyasas are wealth generators. And therefore Saraswati and Lakshmi Both are important. Kshatriyas are those who provide infrastructure to maintain knowledge and wealth, and therefore Parvati. There was Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. The worship of these three goddesses in our culture, it's a symbolism of this truth that all three are required for a peaceful society. And of course, you have to have a labor force for implementation. These are Shudras. And now, if in the light of the discussion, you look at any modern society, no society is free from these classifications. Don't use the word Brahmanas or Kshatriyas. Look at it this way. Knowledge workers, wealth generators, administrators, and labor force. Which society is free from them? No society is free from them. And therefore, anybody who criticizes, you convert these words into the modern words and tell them, is your society free from them? If it is not, then your society also has the Varna system. Right? Now he says, Tasya kartaram apimam. And Shankara comments on this saying that I am the Srishtikarta, I am the Sthitikarta, I am the Layakarta. I am the creator, I am the maintainer, and I am the destroyer of creation also. And therefore, from the Vyavaharika Drishti, from the transactional world angle, I am the Karta, I am the doer. And even though from the transactional world angle, I am always the doer, I am full of activity, what is the beauty? Mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. From the Paramarthika angle, I am akarta. The activities do not bind me, the karma does not affect me, I am not polluted by any of these karmas. So from Vyavaharika Drishti, I am karta, but Paramarthika Drishti, I am akarta. So Krishna is actually pointing out what? That, hey Arjuna, this karta status, the creator status of mine is mithya only, right? Mithya status is never capable of affecting us. And therefore Krishna was not affected by the creation. If he thought he was really the karta, he would be subject to all the pain that a jiva is subject to. This is the context of the verse. It's been a very important verse. So I will open up for questions if there are any.
Ravi sir, a lot
Could you
of
please, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead. One at a time, please.
so a lot of times it happens that people who are like, I'm talking out of experience. So I have people who are in yoga, they would want their children to also learn yoga or want to be in this uh, same Atmanyanam path. But of course, we need to consider the guna predominant, right?
See, the point is that you can't change the gunas of your child. If at all he has to change, that child only has to change when he grows up. All we can do is we can provide a direction by our own activity, by our own character, by the way we behave. That is imbibed to a certain extent. In fact, that is part of the prarabdha of the child. That is born in a family which has got good gunas, is part of the prarabdha. So, and that in continuation of that prarabdha, yes, you can provide direction. You can provide good, the way you behave will affect the child. He will imbibe those qualities, all that you can provide. But ultimately, whether he's going to step onto the path of jnanam or not, is not your lookout at all. You can't do anything about it. It depends on the amount of punyam he has picked up in previous lives. If there is sufficient stock of that punyam, then only will he come to Vedanta. Otherwise, he will not come to Vedanta. Do what you may. Understanding that will prevent a lot of heartbreaks.
Thank you, Acharya.
Ravi,
Yeah, Manmohan.
as you said that yes, all the societies in all the countries have the same Varna system because of their karma, what profession they choose, they must have. So, but the problem is in the intention of how we treat like one of these four or all of them. Is there any suggestion or advice from your side that what we who are studying this scripture with proper guidance, who understand that there should not be any difference and there was no difference. So how can we promote this?
Your teaching is the only way. You catch hold of your neighbor and call him for a cup of tea, and then he can't run away until he finishes his tea, right? So in the meantime, we'll talk about Varna system today. That's all you can do.
Yes.
What else can you do? Teaching is the best propagation. There is no other way. That is why we say that, that the real Guru Dakshina that any student can give his teacher is what? To carry on the teaching.
Okay, Raviji, thank you.
Yes, Indiraji.
I have a question, little confused between the Guna Kshatriya and Guna Shudra. So I know it's like RST and then RTS. But Guna Shudra, what does Guna Shudra?
Tamas
He
is
doesn't
predominant.
answer
TRS is predominant. That is the thing, not RTS. Tamas is predominant in Shudra. Therefore, laziness and inertness, neither intellectual activity nor physical activity.
Okay. Thank you.
You're talking about the distinction between Guna Kshatriya and Guna Vaishya. That is different. That is because second place, one person has got Rajas and one person has got Tamas. So one is selfishly active, one is unselfishly active. Don't get confused between those two. In fact, it's a very long discussion today. So I would suggest that, to get this idea clear in your mind, you make notes with these particular RTS, SRT, TRS, all these things, and get that into your mind. Because the understanding of how the Guna predominances, how they affect the person's character is very important for us as a Vedantic.
Oh, Raviji, can I ask one more question?
Yes, of course.
So I have a little confusion in Guna Sutras and Karma Sutras, because mostly the Karma Sutras who are implementing, they are basically physically they're hardworking. But when we're talking about Guna Sutras, Tamas is predominant. That means, as you said, neither the mental nor physical, I mean intellectual and physical. So are not they little...
I won't say they are hardworking in the sense that they're hardworking because of their nature. They're hardworking because they have no choice. If somebody is earning a living, then he has no choice but to earn. So that's why he's hardworking. If you want to look at how Tamas operates, you should see him on his off day. What does he do?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
So what about STR?
STR cannot be there because Sattva is predominant and therefore Rajas will be next. If Tamas was second in place, where would he be? How could he be Sattva predominant? Because he has overcome Tamas, right? On his journey, he has relegated Tamas from first place to second place to third place.
Basic concept है.
A very basic
बहुत
concept.
ही मतलब आपको ऐसे रास्ते पे डालते हैं.
Om sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So to what extent can gunas be hereditary?
We don't believe in that at all. Because gunas are based on what?
The
What is your guna structure today? What is it the cause of? What is the cause of the guna structure today?
The environment we live.
Nope. That's a wrong understanding.
Karma.
It is the result of your past life.
So your free will and your karma.
It is the result of your past life. Whatever vasanas you have in your past life, that is today manifest as the gunas. So
But sir, they keep changing.
Yes, they do keep changing.
Through your karma, you're also changing
Yes.
your guna structure.
They change only if you
because
do a
all these
structured,
sadhanas are basically
only
karma.
that is the purpose of sadhana. But when you were born, you had a certain guna structure. And what you do with the guna structure is your agami karma. If you don't do anything with it, it'll continue till your death. If you do sadhana, it'll change.
Yes.
Simple things in life. Also, when you say that my parents are lazy, therefore I am lazy, remember that is part of your prarabdha. The fact that you got lazy parents is part of the prarabdha. The karma web is to be properly deciphered. You cannot say I got my guna from my parents. Well, if you are tamasic predominant and your parents are tamasic predominant, to blame your parents for tamas predominance is not correct. It is basically you are tamasic predominant and therefore you got a tamasic predominant family. The blame is all, if you have to blame, the reason is always your vasana in the previous life.
I would like to share an incident at this occasion, Raviji.
Please.
Most of the patients keep telling my parents are diabetic. I will also be diabetic. I would say no, because it's extremely easy to not to get into a diabetic status if you work on it. That's how I think our point also comes up.
Exactly.
Because it's not exactly if the parents are diabetic, you don't need to be diabetic. You should work towards it and eat right and work out. Definitely you need not be diabetic.
Yeah.
That's how I think this point also will correlate.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ji.
Chris, you were asking something? Chris.
So may I ask?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, sir.
Yeah, Jyoti, go ahead.
So, sir, is it something like that? What I have experienced, that irrespective whatever I have done, I think there was something within me which was telling me all the time that I need to do this. I need to do this. So it are what my question is: are gunas are like that? That they really, I mean, they just keep hinting you or telling you also some of the time that this is the direction you need to go, basically. I mean, you get a very strong kind of voice within yourself. So do they provide any kind of guidance?
No, they give you, they won't provide you any guidance. They are the factors which influence you to a certain extent. But remember that you cannot say that because of my gunas I am like this, because you have the capacity to take your own decisions. Free will is always there.
Okay.
So your gunas may say something, but in fact, it reminds me of Duryodhana. Duryodhana said, that I know exactly what dharma is. Jnānami dharma. Name pravartihi, but I can never do it. And he said, Jnānami adharma. He said, I know exactly what adharma is. Name nivrittihi. I can never stop myself from doing it. That is the same thing over here. You have inclinations, you have gunas. They push you in a particular direction. Whether you want to go into the direction or not is for you to decide, for your free will to decide. Never say that my free will is influenced by anything else. Bhagavan didn't design a free will that way. That is why it's called free will.
But sir, at times the inclination is so strong that you just really cannot look in any other direction.
No, that means that you are not been practicing on your free will. Then what you need to do is you need to make sure that whatever you like best, like for example, you like 5 cups of coffee a day. How do you train your free will? You say that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I shall have only 4 cups of coffee. And that you do until such time as that 4 cups makes no difference to you. Then you say, whole week I shall have only 4 cups of coffee. That is how you train your free will. That is part of the sadhana, strengthening your free will. And it need not be spiritual sadhana. It can be small things in life. Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning is a good sadhana, actually. Everybody hates to do that. But do it and see. A time will come when you don't need the alarm.
Yeah.
Of course, it might make you a weird person in your family's eyes because you'll go to sleep at 9 o'clock, which happens to me. Everybody says there's no point calling this fellow after 9 because he'll be in bed. But they don't realize that at 4 o'clock I'm up. I get 3 solid hours of work before anybody else wakes up. So whichever way you do it, that is up to you.
Acharya,
Yeah.
how to recognize in terms of the raising the child, like, what guna is dominant, or should we just start doing the regular
The
Panchamahalaya?
child actually, once, Guna dominance and all will not show up until he's almost a teenager. I mean, not clearly show up. So you should know, you should give your guidance in terms of your behavior. And then hope that, you do your behavior, you do your regular parayanam, you take him to temples, you teach him to pray. All these things you can do. Pray regularly. Remember that even if you teach him to pray regularly, when he's 18, he might decide this is all rubbish. That is not in your hands. But the guidance you can definitely give.
Okay,
You have to
Acharya.
remember that my job is to give guidance. But ultimately what he turns out to be is not on me. That is on his prarabdha as a jivatma. Freedom from guilt is the mark of a good Vedantic. Providing you've done your job well. You can feel guilty for not doing your job, but not for how anybody turned out to be. It can be your own children.
Okay, Acharya. Thank you.
Sir.
Acharya,
Yeah,
Go ahead. Please go ahead. Okay, sir, we are basically saying that your free will, if strong enough, can override your gunas.
very easily.
So
Gunas.
basically, when
The
Krishna is
direction
using different
prescribed by a
arguments
Guna.
to convince Arjuna to fight the battle, right?
That is what he's doing. He's saying use your free will to do your duty.
Right. So when he's telling Arjuna that there are different arguments that he presents to convince Arjuna to fight the battle, do his duty, the karmic angle, the dharmic angle, all of those, right?
Yeah.
But when he's telling Arjuna that you are basically a guna kshatriya and a jati kshatriya, right? So you are rajas predominant. So even if you take sannyas, you will not be able to stop doing karmas because you're rajas predominant.
Yeah.
So, sir, doesn't that argument become kind of
No, because
I don't
this
know,
Guna change
for lack of a
doesn't.
better word,
No,
flimsy?
the Guna change doesn't happen overnight. That is what he's saying. You want to change from Guna Kshatriya to Guna Brahmana, you can change. It requires years of sadhana, and that is not going to happen on the battlefield. That is what he's saying. And second part of it is that he has to do his own karma. No, his karma is to fight. In that karma, he has to learn to be dispassionate, and that is how he gets dispassionate, Chitta Shuddhi. There are two things being talked about. One is that you do your duty today as a warrior, and then you can get Chitta Shuddhi. Don't think that by going to Rishikesh and becoming president of Sannyasi Association, we can become Chitta Shuddhi. That's what he's saying.
Right.
You have to understand correctly. Shastra can be misinterpreted very, very easily. But if you remember, the basic thrust of the Shastram is what? First Chitta Shuddhi, then Moksha. And whenever you see Chitta Shuddhi, it is Veda Purva only, Karma Kanda only. You have to do your duties. How do you do it? In a dispassionate manner. That is the thrust of Krishna's argument.
Thank
Oh,
you, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
What role does the prarabdha have in the guna, Brahman or Kshatriya or any place to either fall or rise from that particular state to the other
The
one?
prarabdha, remember, only brings before you a certain environment. How you react to an environment is your own agami karma. You cannot use prarabdha as an excuse. Prarabdha is definitely going to bring before you certain environment, certain parents that are brought before you, certain health situations that are brought, how your body is that are brought before you. But can you use your free will to overcome that is the question. That is agami karma.
Sometimes we see that in families, even when the parents are, let's say, very lazy, but the children born are, of the gun brahmana nature.
Yeah.
So that is where I wanted to understand this discrepancy.
But there is no discrepancy there at all. I told you, it comes entirely from your own previous karma. Yeah. Not prarabdha. Previous prarabdha, remember, is what events you are being brought up to face. Don't use prarabdha loosely.
Yes.
Prarabdha is whatever environment you are facing, whatever events come before your life, whatever happiness and sorrow comes to you, all that is prarabdha. How you use your free will. That is Agami karma. So Agami karma is extremely important for you. Agami karma is a direct link to free will. What do I do with an unpleasant situation which has come before me? Do I sit and cry or do I attack it?
Thank you, Acharya.
Acharya, you keep changing whenever we use the word prarabdha. You're saying past karma for that environment. Is there any difference you're trying to tell us that why you're born there in that environment? Is it not prarabdha?
Exactly. That's why I say any environment in which you are born, any environment which you come up against, that is prarabdha karma. That environment includes your birth and the events which you come up against and the sorrows and happiness which you face. How you handle them, that is Agami. Prarabdha you have no control over. Agami you have full control over.
So the gunas, isn't it prarabdha, the predominant guna?
No. If you say it is prarabdha, it means that it is not going to be controlled by you. That is the effect of past vasana. You cannot change it immediately, but through sadhana, you can definitely change it. If through sadhana your gunas cannot be changed, then there is no question of the shastram at all. What is shastram there for?
Correct. Right, Acharya. Thank you.
Okay, so with this we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya
Purnamadaya
Purnamevavashyate.
Purnamevavashyate.
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah
Thank you,
Shivaya.
Jay.
Tat.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
patience.
Acharya.
Sadhu Namaskar.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Acharya.